Hey everybody, it's Brett and welcome back to my channel. It's been a while. I was away, I had so much going on and I was away for the last 2 weeks. I was in vacation in Europe and all this was going on and all I could think of was like, I have so much content that I wanted to film and share and I haven't had a chance and I didn't have a chance before I left to go away because I was so busy. So I have a bunch of stuff that I want to share with all of you, including the books that I bought while I was in London, most of which are not available in the States yet. And that's kind of what I tried to focus on. But I'm going to get that another video coming up because first I wanted to back up and I would like to talk about my September wrap up because I never talked about it, not to mention the fact that I want to talk about my 10 before the end. So expect me to make some more videos in the next few weeks. I just didn't have time, but I did have a really incredible trip. I was in London for a week. I saw some great shows, including this, which was just fantastic. Also this, which was also terrific. Both of these shows are now closed, so if you didn't see them, you won't. Although I think that The Curious Case of Benjamin Buttons is going to be coming to New York, and if it does, you absolutely have to see it for those of you in the States. And then I was on a bike trip for a week through the Loire Valley with a big group of friends of mine, and this was so fun and truly just a incredible experience, and it still hurts to sit down. So, all right, but other than that, let's talk about some September books and what I read, and so many of them I loved. So let's go. So a lot of what I read was for September. We're trying to get through the Booker titles before the shortlist had been announced, and I did a pretty good job of that. So let's just dive right in. The first was Seascraper by Benjamin Wood. I loved this book so much. And of course, this was the one that I kind of predicted would not make the shortlist because I loved it so much. And it always seems like the book that so many people kind of glom onto is the one that doesn't get to move forward. I thought this was so beautiful, so small, but so precise, such beautiful language. This is about a young man who's living with his mother who never knew his father, but his grandfather taught him his profession, which is a sea scraper, which is someone who gathers shrimp out of the ocean. But one day this man arrives in the town who says he's a Hollywood producer who's looking at this town for possibly like location scouting, and he hires the young man to work with him. Oh my God. It is so perfect. And it can be one of those Saturday afternoon in front of a fire with the rain outside and you just read through this whole thing. It is all about dreams and wanting more for your life and how do you make those things come true. And God, it's really, really, really beautiful. And despite it not getting on the shortlist, I would 100% say read this book. It still was one of my favorite from the entire list. Next was I Am You by Victoria Redel. This was a Sarah Jessica Parker from her imprint, Zando and Sarah Jessica Parker. Well, I first saw this book because how could you not be drawn in by this cover? The most beautiful, beautiful, beautiful cover. I truly, it's one of my favorites of the year. A really interesting story that's based on the life of, I'm probably going to massacre this name, but Maria van Oosterwijk, who is a Dutch painter. Well, Victoria takes this story and really revolves it around Maria's servant, who is a young girl that is disguised as a boy by her parents in order to get her this job. So Maria figures out very quickly that this boy is actually a girl, and she tells her that she knows, but they still keep the illusion in play, okay? So the book is really about sex and class, and I'm talking sex meaning the sexes, male versus female, but also sexuality and gender and art and artists. It's beautiful, it's provocative. It reminds me of two things. There's a French movie called Portrait of a Lady on Fire, and if you know that film and like that film, I think you would love this. There's also a little bit of Yale Van der Wouten's The Safe Keep that reminded me a little bit of this too, just in terms of tonally, but wow, what a great, 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 really enjoyable book. Another Booker book, The Land in Winter by Andrew Miller, about two different couples in 1962. Again, I thought this was exceptional writing, beautiful. My only thing about the book for me that didn't make it a full solid 5 stars is there becomes a kind of towards the end of the book, another character is introduced that I didn't understand completely how it aided the flow of the story. So I just kind of felt like it took a little bit of the momentum out of it, but it's a small quibble. I still think it's a really, really well done book. I wasn't surprised at all to see it on the short list. Another book I was not surprised about was Flesh by David Szalay. I had this galley sent to me by Scribner, and I had never, for one reason or another, didn't get to it right away. I kind of thought that this was at least going to be on the long list because Sarah Jessica Parker posted something one day before she was even announced as a judge. And she had like a bag packed, and it was a picture from the set or something, and this was sticking out of it. And that just kind of like lodged in my brain, and I thought, huh. So sure enough, it was there, and sure enough, it's on the short list. I loved this book. Have never read anything by him. This is such a fascinating study of masculinity and kind of, in some ways, toxic masculinity, but how this young man, who is not necessarily always a participant in his life in a direct way, but kind of gets pulled into the flow, and his story. I found it incredibly compelling narrative, and I don't want to say much else, but this was a big winner for me. Not as big as a winner for me, but I still enjoyed it, but certainly not as much as other people. Again, long list title, Love Forms by Claire Adam. This is the story of a woman who, as a teenager, gets pregnant, and her parents send her to effectively it's like a nunnery where she is forced to give the baby up for adoption. And as now a woman in her 50s, she's thinking about it a lot, and she's trying to attempt to find her daughter, to find out where she is. I thought it was beautiful. It just felt to me less like a book that was for the Booker and more a front runner for the Woman's Prize to me. I thought a lot of the writing was beautiful. It didn't have the wow factor to me that I think some other people have felt, but it just didn't for me. But still a decent book, but just not a Booker home run. Then, Life and Death and Giants by Ron Rindo. This, I got an audio copy from Macmillan, and I was curious about it because I had read a star review in either Kirkus or Publishers Weekly. So I started to listen to it. Oh my God. It became one of my favorite books this year. It's very in a wheelhouse John Irving-esque about a young woman who gives birth to this boy. And she grew up in the Amish community and was kind of excommunicated because she got pregnant, wouldn't say who the father was. And this baby is born, and it turns out he becomes a giant, like 9 feet tall. And the story of his life is told not by him directly, but through various people around him. His grandmother, who's his Amish grandmother, the veterinarian who kind of takes this kid under his wing, the bartender in town. And it becomes the story of not only him, but of the people in this town and how his life affects theirs. It is so beautiful. And it's the only time since I've been doing my podcast, besides Virginia Evans, after I read The Correspondent, that I immediately thought I have to sit down with Ron Rindo. So when I'm recording this, it's a Tuesday. Tomorrow I'm recording with Ron, and it will be up next week, that interview. But it just was exactly what I felt like I needed. And it's getting this incredible life of its own because word of mouth of this book is so amazing. So I would say, the audio is fantastic, but the book is just beautiful. And I would highly recommend this. One of my faves. Then I read Lily King's Heart the Lover. And I loved it. I loved it. So many people have been loving this, and I'm one of those people as well. This is a prequel and a sequel to her book, Writers and Lovers. You don't have to have read Writers and Lovers to read this and enjoy it, but Obviously, it enriches the experience if you have. There's so many things that I love in a book. First of all, it's a romance that exists between this woman, the protagonist of the story, and these two men that she meets in college. So it's also a campus novel. It's a college, but it's so smart, and it seems like Lily King just makes it look so easy, and it has so much woomph, and it is incredibly moving, and I really don't want to say too much about it. I just thought it was really beautiful. Really, really, really beautiful. Okay, and then two more to go over with you, and that's the whole thing. The first was The Women of Wild Hill by Kirsten Miller. If you're following me at all, or you're following the podcast at all, you'll know that Kirsten Miller is my guest this week on the show. Really enjoyed not only reading this book, which I'm a fan of Kirsten Miller, and I think the books are fun. I love this world that she's creating with these very strong, witchy women. But we also had an incredible conversation which devolved more into politics than I would have thought would happen, and yet so much of what she's writing about and so many of the things that she believes in terms of just politics and gender and fairness and equality, all the things that come up in her books, it's all very relevant now. So anyway, you may want to check that conversation out. But this was really, really fun. Certainly great for spooky season, which we're here now. And then the last book, which came out today, which is Brandon Taylor's Minor Black Figures. I absolutely love this. Favorite Brandon Taylor ever. I remembered loving Real Life, and then his subsequent novel I was just kind of lukewarm on. This one involves a black artist who is working. He rents space in his studio that he shares with a couple of guys who are also artists. So there's that whole component of the story, as well as for a job, he is working for a man who's an art restorer. But he gets involved in this relationship with this man who was a seminarian who dropped out. He reminds me a lot. Brandon Taylor reminds me a lot, or this book reminded me a lot of like a Szalay Rooney novel. It's a lot of conversation. The protagonist in this I found a little prickly in the beginning and a little hard to tap into, and I thought, and am I going to like this because of him? But it very becomes evident that this is just kind of who he is, and the way that the other characters kind of interact with him, that's just who he is as a person. And it kind of gave me a little bit of breathing room to be like, okay, this is not just me reacting to him. This is who he kind of is. But yeah, so he meets this ex-seminarian named Keating, who I became obsessed with, this character. And I was so caught up in their relationship and this kind of romance that starts to develop between the two of them, the conversations they're having. I found myself so wrapped up in the whole thing. And Brandon Taylor is obviously like such a smart guy who is kind of working out so many different things in terms of, in this book, about race and sexuality and the art world in particular, and who are kind of the arbiters in the art world of what gets seen, what is worthy, and how Black artists fit into this very predominantly white space. So there's a lot going on. There's a lot to kind of sink your teeth into and ponder. I loved the whole thing. I just thought it was so utterly engaging. All right, so that's it. 9. Yes. So sorry this was coming at you so late, but better late than never. Next, I think I'm going to throw out my 10 before the end before I do the books I got in London, because I don't know, I'll see. Maybe I'll change that up, but I'm happy to even be sitting here talking to you right now and having a video to put out to you guys. Cannot believe that we're in the final quarter of the year. That's another thing. I haven't even talked about my third quarter faves, so I have to do that as well. There's so much. I hope you're all doing well. I hope you're having a good start to your fall or your middle of fall. Here in the Pacific Northwest, it's beginning to get really crisp. Last night with the wind chill, it was 39 degrees, and definitely felt it, but definitely loving it. Thank you for watching. If you've made it this far, amazing. And I will see you all soon.